My friends, there is something powerful about the hand of God moving in your life when it seems like all odds are against you. God sees every trap set against you before it ever reaches you. That truth alone should give you peace in the middle of chaos. You see, while you and I are limited by time and space, God is not. He stands outside of time. He sees the end from the beginning, before the enemy even begins to form the weapon, before the conversation of betrayal even starts. Before the trap is designed, God has already seen it, and He has already made a way of escape. Nothing surprises Him. Nothing catches Him off guard. While we may walk blindly into a situation, God has already walked through it ahead of us. You may have experienced moments where you felt blindsided by a sudden betrayal, a harsh word, a trap laid in the shadows by someone you trusted. But you were not alone in that moment. You were never walking into it unaware. You were walking with a God who was fully aware. Sometimes we question, why did God let me go through it? But what we often don't see is what He shielded us from. That situation could have crushed you, but He stepped in. That betrayal could have broken your spirit, but He preserved your peace. That weapon formed against you could have taken you out, but it did not prosper because He blocked it. He is not just your deliverer after the trouble comes. He is your defender before the trouble starts. He goes ahead of you and orders your steps. And even when the enemy plots behind closed doors, God is still in control. Think about the story of Esther. Haman devised a trap to destroy her people, but God had already positioned her in the palace for such a time as that. Before the gallows were built, God had a plan. Before the decree was written, God had a deliverer prepared. That is how your God works. He's ahead of the enemy by 1,000 steps. Every unseen attack, every backroom conversation, every false accusation that was meant to bring you down. God has seen it all. And not only does He see it, but He also responds. Sometimes He allows you to go through it to strengthen you, but even then, He filters every situation through His purpose for your life. The trap that was meant to destroy you becomes the very tool God uses to develop you. The enemy doesn't have the final word. God does. And His word is always one of protection and victory. So take comfort today. You may not understand everything that's happening around you. You may feel like the attacks are coming from every side, but remember, you are surrounded by the presence of God. The enemy may be busy, but God is not idle. He sees, He knows, He acts, and He never lets a trap go unnoticed. He's working behind the scenes, rerouting, blocking, and removing every scheme that doesn't align with His will for you. What was meant for evil, He will turn for your good, because nothing formed against you can prosper under the eyes of a God who sees it all. Betrayal often sets the stage for elevation. It is one of the most painful experiences a person can endure, especially when it comes from someone you loved, trusted, or stood by. It pierces the heart in ways few other things can. You might wonder why God would allow such a deep wound, why He didn't stop it, or why He let you walk straight into something so devastating. But if you look closely through the pages of Scripture and even your own life, you'll begin to see a powerful pattern. Betrayal is often the doorway to breakthrough. Sometimes, the very people who walk away from you are the reason you finally walk into your purpose. The ones who rejected you, talked behind your back, plotted against you, or tried to discredit you unknowingly, pushed you into the arms of destiny. They didn't know it, but they were being used to separate you from where you were so you could step into where you are meant to be. Betrayal cuts ties, but God uses it to cut cords that are no longer connected to your calling. Their departure is painful, but it makes room for divine promotion. Take the story of Joseph, for example. His own brothers betrayed him. They threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery, thinking they had silenced his dream forever. What they didn't realize was that their betrayal was only the beginning of Joseph's rise. If they hadn't betrayed him, he would have never made it to Egypt. If he hadn't ended up in Egypt, he would never have been placed in a position to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And if he hadn't interpreted that dream, he never would have become second in command of the entire nation. What looked like the end was actually the setup for God's elevation. The same God who elevated Joseph is still working today. That betrayal in your life wasn't random. That heartbreak wasn't meaningless. God saw it, and He allowed it not to punish you, but to promote you. You see, the betrayal shook you loose from a place of comfort, from relationships that were no longer tied to your destiny. It woke something up in you. It forced you to seek God more deeply. It drove you into prayer, into worship, into purpose. And all the while, God was preparing a table before you, not in secret, but in the presence of those who once turned against you. Don't let betrayal make you better. Let it make you better. Let it press you deeper into God's promises. Let it fire inside you to pursue the calling on your life with more focus than ever before. People may have left you, but God has not. People may have tried to bring you down, but God is lifting you up. They thought they had the final word when they betrayed you. But God always writes the last chapter, and his story ends in victory. So the next time you find yourself broken by betrayal, remember this: you are not being buried, you are being positioned. The pain is real, but so is the promise. And just like the stone that was rolled in front of Jesus' tomb, what they meant to seal your fate is the very thing God will use to unveil your glory. The betrayal may sting, but elevation is coming. Hold on, because what's ahead is far greater than what you lost. Your silence in the face of opposition is not weakness, it's trust. In a world that encourages immediate responses, loud defenses, and public retaliation, choosing to stay silent can feel like you're doing nothing. But when you know who you belong to, when you understand the authority and sovereignty of God over your life, silence becomes a weapon of strength. It's not about shrinking back. It's about standing still and knowing that God is fighting for you in ways you cannot yet see. Sometimes the enemy wants to provoke a reaction just to pull you out of position. He knows that if he can get you emotional, he can distract you. If he can get you bitter, he can block your blessing. But when you respond with silence, when you choose not to defend yourself, not to retaliate, not to clap back, you are declaring, I trust God more than I trust my own words. You are saying, this battle does not belong to me, it belongs to the Lord. And that kind of trust moves heaven. That kind of trust allows God to show up and do what only he can do. Jesus himself modeled this perfectly. When he stood before Pilate and the crowd accused him falsely, he did not open his mouth in defense. Not because he couldn't. He had all the power of heaven at his command, because he trusted the Father's plan. His silence was not defeat, it was divine restraint. He knew that vindication was coming, not from man, but from the throne of heaven. And just like Jesus, when you hold your peace, you're aligning with the same spirit of trust. You're choosing to believe that God is the judge, and he will make things right. There are times when speaking up is necessary, but there are also moments when silence speaks louder than any words could. It speaks of confidence, it speaks of self-control, it speaks of a deep faith that says, even if they misunderstand me now, even they accuse me wrongly, my God sees the truth and he will bring it to light. That kind of faith is not weak, it's rare. It's powerful. It's the kind of faith that causes mountains to move and enemies to fall. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to answer every critic. You don't have to explain yourself to those who never intended to understand you. When you stay quiet, you give God space to speak on your behalf. You give him the room to work justice in a way that your voice never could. And when God speaks, there is no argument, no lie, and no enemy that can stand. So don't be discouraged if people think your silence is surrender. They don't understand the kind of faith it takes to say nothing and still believe that God is working. They don't realize the strength it takes to walk in peace when you're surrounded by conflict. Your silence is not weakness, it's trust in action. It's confidence in the one who has never lost the battle. And when the time is right, God will make your righteousness shine like the dawn and your vindication like the noonday sun. Until then, rest in his promises and let your quietness be your strength. Those who tried to bury you didn't realize you were a seed. They thought the weight they placed on you would crush you. They assumed that by pushing you down, isolating you, mocking you, or turning their backs on you, they had ended your purpose. But what they didn't understand is that God often allows a burial to bring about a blooming. You were never meant to stay beneath the surface. The darkness they forced you into wasn't a grave, it was the soil. And the soil is where seeds go not to die, but to grow. When someone is buried, it's meant to signify an end, but when a seed is planted, it's the beginning of something powerful and unseen in the hidden place. Where no applause is heard, no validation is given, and no attention is received. God is working, he is shaping, strengthening, preparing you for a future that no one saw coming. The soil is dark, it's uncomfortable, it's lonely, but it's where the roots form. It's where the foundation of your strength is established. It's in that quiet place that God whispers purpose, refines character, and breathes resilience into your soul. Those who thought they buried you walked away too soon. They didn't stick around long enough to see that you were taking root. That rejection you faced was not a death sentence. It was divine redirection. That heartbreak didn't end your journey, it launched a new chapter. You were not abandoned, you were being cultivated. And when God is finished preparing what He planted, you will rise. Not with bitterness, but with boldness, not in anger, but in announcing. What looked like a breakdown was actually a through being born in silence. Look around at nature and you'll see the pattern. Every mighty tree began as a hidden seed. Every fruitful vine first went unseen beneath the surface, and so it is with you. The process is painful, it requires patience, but the potential packed inside of you will only be released through the pressure of the dirt. And that dirt, every lie, every betrayal, every moment of discouragement, has a purpose. It's feeding what's about to break through. It's pushing you to dig deep, to grow stronger, to emerge in the season God has appointed. You're not just surviving, you're sprouting. And soon those who tried to bury you will be astonished by what God brings forth from your life. They will see the fruit. They will witness the favor. They will stand in awe of the strength they tried to silence. Because seeds always rise, always. And when they do, they don't look like what they went through. They bloom brighter, they stand taller, they flourish in the same place where others thought they had failed. So if you feel like life has buried you, take heart. You are in the soil of God's purpose. The growth may be slow, the progress may be invisible, but something powerful is happening. Keep trusting, keep believing, because the same God who allowed you to be planted is the same God who will cause you to rise. And when you do, no one will be able to deny the beauty, strength, and glory that comes from a life that was once buried, but now blooms. God's vindication will often be public. When He steps in to defend, to restore, and to elevate you, He does it in a way that not only silences the voices of opposition, but also brings glory to His name through your story. You may have endured quite seasons of rejection, humiliation, and false accusation. Seasons where it felt like no one saw your pain, where you were misjudged, misunderstood, or mistreated. And through it all, you may have wondered if God noticed. But He did, and not only does He see, He responds. But His response is never timid, never hidden. His vindication, in many cases, is done before the very eyes of those who counted you out. There is something remarkable about the way God operates. He could easily fix things in secret, heal your wounds behind the scenes, or bless you quietly where no one notices. But oftentimes, He chooses to prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. That means the very people who thought you were finished, the ones who turned their backs, the ones who mocked your faith or questioned your value, they'll witness the hand of God lifting you up, not to shame them, but to reveal His justice and prove His faithfulness in your life. When people think they've succeeded in tearing you down, they often walk away satisfied, thinking the damage is done. But God is a God of reversals. He restores not just what you lost, but the honor that was taken, the voice that was silenced, and the reputation that was dragged through the mud. He does it so that no one can say your victory came from human help. He does it so that when people see your rise, they know it was divine. Your story becomes a testimony, not just of survival, but of supernatural vindication. Look at the life of Job. He lost everything: his children, his health, his wealth. He was ridiculed and misunderstood by his friends. But when God restored him, He gave Job double what he had before. And not in secret, everyone saw it. Everyone who thought God had abandoned him had to acknowledge the blessing that came after the storm. Job didn't have to fight for himself. He didn't have to prove anything. He simply remained faithful, and God honored that publicly. And so it is with you. Your job is not to seek revenge. Your job is not to explain yourself or prove your worth to those who don't see it. Your job is to remain faithful, obedient, and humble. Keep your heart clean. Keep your hands lifted. Let God be the one to speak on your behalf. Because when He does, His voice thunders louder than any accusation. His timing is perfect. And when He opens doors, no one can close them. When He calls you forward, no voice of criticism can hold you back. God's vindication is powerful because it lifts you above what tried to keep you bound. It restores you in front of those who thought you were finished. And in doing so, it draws attention not to your strength, but to His. People will look at you and say, "Surely the Lord has been with them." And that's exactly the point. Your vindication becomes His glory. So don't grow weary in doing good. Don't get discouraged when it feels like the world is against you. Trust that God is keeping score. Trust that He has a plan to reveal the truth in His time and His way. And when He moves, it won't be silent. It won't be small, it will be undeniable. Because God's vindication doesn't whisper, it proclaims. Elevation doesn't come from people, it comes from God. That truth is the anchor for anyone who has ever been overlooked, rejected, or passed by. In a world that often runs on connections, approval, recognition, and applause, it can be easy to believe that your destiny depends on human hands. But the Word of God reminds us again and again that true promotion, lasting elevation, and divine increase come only from the one who sits on the throne, not from those who sit in seats of power on earth. People may be used as vessels, but they are not the source. They may be part of the process, but they are not the decision makers over your life. God holds the blueprint. He orders the seasons. He alone opens doors that no man can shut and shuts doors that no one can force open. When He chooses to lift you, no opinion can block it, no jealousy can stop it, and no system can deny it, because God does not need permission to bless you. He does not consult with man to promote you. He exalts according to His will, His timing, and His purpose. You may have been passed up for opportunities. Others may have received platforms you prayed for, or been celebrated while you were forgotten. But don't let that discourage your spirit. You are not behind, you are not unseen. God is simply writing your story differently, and when He raises you up, it will not be because of who you know, but because of you are in Him. That kind of elevation is sustainable, because it is rooted in purpose, not politics. It is grounded in calling, not competition. Think of David. He was just a shepherd boy, overlooked even by his own father. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king, David wasn't even invited to the gathering. His own family didn't see the king in him, but God did. And while people were choosing based on appearance, height, and strength, God was looking at the heart. David didn't need anyone to promote him into his destiny. God found him in the fields, anointed him in secret, and eventually positioned him before the whole nation. That's how divine elevation works. It's birthed in hidden places and manifested in public ones, all according to God's perfect plan. So don't be discouraged when people don't acknowledge your potential. Don't be bitter when doors close or when someone else is chosen. Keep your eyes on the one who lifts. Keep serving, keep praying, keep walking in integrity. Because at the appointed time, God will raise you up. And when He does, it will be undeniable. People may wonder how you got there. They'll search for the connections, the networks, the strategy. But the only explanation will be that God did it. And that's exactly how He wants it. He wants your elevation to reflect His glory, not your grind. He wants your breakthrough to point to His faithfulness, not your influence. That way, when you stand in the place He's prepared for you, your life will testify to His power and His promise. You won't have to boast, explain, or defend. You'll simply live out what He already spoke over you. So rest in this truth today. People may play roles, but they are not the source of your promotion. Your help comes from the Lord. Your steps are ordered by Him. And when the time is right, He will make it happen. Elevation doesn't come from the east or the west. It doesn't come from the boardroom, the stage, or the crowd. It comes from heaven. And when God lifts you, you are truly lifted for life.